Good morning. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. This is RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. You can see there the Pentagon staff getting ready for this press conference, which will start in exactly 30 minutes from now. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Air Force General Dan Caine will be at the podium shortly. We'll bring you this entire press conference once it starts, which is at 8 o'clock Eastern. Those of you that watched last night, thank you for streaming in. We are up to date as for the latest when we hear from the Secretary of Defense coming up in about 30 minutes. In the meantime, let's go less than 12 hours ago, where President Trump had this to say to the United States and the world.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Caine, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Caine, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel. And God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, of course, the president just yesterday, as we all watched here together on Right Side Broadcasting Network, whether you watched it live last night or watched it on replay, we saw the president speak for just a few minutes there updating the country, updating the world on what happened. Of course, the 3 U.S. strikes in Iran. And then, of course, he spoke about what we're about to see. This 8 a.m. press conference, again, with Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, also the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Air Force General Dan Caine. So they'll be at the podium, both podiums there, delivering some information right off the top and taking some questions, most likely, as this is a press conference. So we'll see how long it lasts and what information that they will share. But we do know, just a little bit of inside baseball, I believe there's a room for about 60 reporters in that Pentagon briefing. So that's a lot of reporters. It's first come, first serve, we're told. And so at the end of the day, going to be a packed room, a lot of questions I'm sure to be asked. But first, again, looking forward to hearing from the Secretary of Defense and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Air Force General Dan Caine, to share with us any specifics that they can with the operation of last night in Iran. Again, 3 sites struck. We know what President Trump said on Truth Social last night. Many of you were here and watching live, but also you saw at about 7:50 Eastern last night when President Trump, sent that message, sent the Truth Social message to the country and the world that the strikes were successful. Speaking of Truth Social, last night President Trump said, quote, "Any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight." Thank you, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. So that from last night. So that's the latest message from President Trump as of last night, other than replaying his speech that he posted. Specifically, when he posted this message here was at 10:35 Eastern Time. So at 7:50, his Truth Social post revealed that there was a strike and it was confirmed and it was successful. Then at 10:35 last night, he posted this about any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight, which was last night, of course. Thank you, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. So now what we do is we wait to hear from Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and we'll see if there's any more details that they'll share with us. You know, this is a time right now where what will happen today? What will happen tomorrow? This is why we call it the 24/7 news cycle. Well, this is what we're going to be experiencing here at Right Side as we cover any developments when it comes to the Middle East, when it comes to our country, when it comes to decision making. This is going to be, as they say, part of the American national conversation. This is on the top of everyone's mind. There are other things going on, of course, around the country, whether it's passing the big, beautiful bill, whether it's how are things going in Los Angeles with the National Guard there when it comes to ICE deportations. Those are domestic issues, obviously important to the country. But right now, we were keeping our eyes in a periphery on and focused on Israel and Iran over the past several days. Then we saw what happened yesterday, actually maybe now 72 hours ago, where Carolyn Levitt said that President Trump within 2 weeks will make a decision whether or not to go, meaning to attack Iran. And we saw last night the answer. Then 48 hours after that press briefing, we saw that President Trump made that decision. And again, we talked about this last night, but the details are very, very interesting to look into, because President Trump had a number of National Security Council meetings inside the Situation Room at the White House. Some of those photos I've seen yesterday on the New York Post and elsewhere. And we know that that's the National Security Council meeting with people like the Secretary of Defense, who you'll see here in a minute, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, and others. But the meeting that happened yesterday, Saturday, June 21st at 6 o'clock, was inside the Oval Office, and it wasn't called a National Security Council meeting. It was just called a National Security meeting at the Oval Office, different from a National Security Council meeting in the Situation Room. And the reason why I bring it up once again is because this is why when President Trump, even in various ways when he talks about certain things in the Oval Office over the past 4 months, we've listened to, I believe, every word that president has said, this president has said, since 2015, but really focused in, of course, on these past 4 months. And if you guys remember, he did say it's this office, this Oval Office, and he looked around as the Declaration of Independence is to his right of the Resolute desk, as a room where many decisions have been made that affect the country and indirectly now affect, the world with this situation. President Trump talked about that. He said it's decisions that are made in this office. And so yesterday, when many of you saw, and I saw the same thing, that there were certain Air Force aircraft starting to head toward the Middle East or head either to Guam or to the Middle East, whatever the case is, maybe refueling over the ocean, whatever the case is, we'll know more specifics here today because we know we're going to hear from the top person at the Pentagon. But the point is that the decision being made in the Oval Office was what actually transpired, it seems, because yesterday, again, we saw that the radar showed a lot of Air Force military heading to the Middle East. And later in the day at 6 p.m. Eastern, the president had a national security meeting in the Oval Office. So I saw those two things happen, and many journalists over the years, when you see certain things happen that are a little bit different, you kind of you put that in the back of your mind and you say something might be going down, and then you kind of feel your intuition on it. But the point is that we are going to be here live. Of course, it's 19 minutes until the press conference. You'll hear everything that is said at that press conference live right now on Right Side Broadcasting Network. I know this is not a typical weekend. We usually have off on a weekend, right? Or if you work on a weekend, I've worked on weekends too, and I understand that. But the point is, regardless of other things going on, when it comes to specifically the events that transpired yesterday, that's that 24/7 news cycle, and we are here for it at Right Side Broadcasting Network as it's 7:42 this morning. I believe what we will do from now into the next 18 minutes, of course, I'm going to monitor a number of, whether it's Truth Social posts, whether it's X posts. There's a lot of chatter going on online, and especially from foreign leaders and others. This is going to be a lot going on. There are foreign leaders going on camera talking about what happened. There are foreign leaders and former foreign leaders who are posting on X and some on Truth Social about their thoughts with it. This, as we're hearing that there are some from Iran that will actually be going to meet with Putin in Russia. What is that about? We'll see. But what we're looking at is as they say, when you hear us in the media say this is a very fluid situation, that's exactly what we're doing here. We're covering it live, just like you guys are monitoring it live. And we don't act like we're separate from you and we know what's going on. Well, we do, but so do you in some ways. We do get some specific emails, of course, the networks do, from the White House in regards to a number of announcements and details like that on our sources. This is what we're paid to do, but we also, as a citizen, I'm interested. That's why citizen journalism is such a thing, because you guys have an opportunity, and so do I, and so does this network, to, if you find out information and report it, and you've got the receipts, that's good stuff. And again, that's on the side of we the people, that's on the side of conservative media, that's on the side of helping as a unit uncover what the heck is going on out there in this world and in our country. And of course, we've seen here on the network a lot of live reporting, a lot of common sense reporting, as President Trump has had a lot of, whether it's a press availability at the Oval Office, whether it's Carolyn Levitt at the press briefing, whether it's Stephen Miller at the White House microphones outside, regardless of what it is. How about Tom Homan doing such a great job for our country as the borders are? This is somebody that's on point. But when we have something that happened yesterday, obviously the attention of the country and the world goes to specifically what President Trump talked about yesterday during that very brief announcement and speech that addressed to the nation from the East Room of the White House. So I believe what we'll do is we did play that speech at the top of the broadcast. I believe we'll probably play it one more time before we go to the Pentagon as we monitor the details of what happened over the past not even 24 hours. You know, we'd say it's a 24/7 news cycle. This is more like a 12-hour cycle of, or actually every minute. You know, this is something that people in the media, we just, you know, you can't stop looking at X or Truth Social, or you're, you know, listening to your sources or hearing from security experts, military experts, and then also getting it right from the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, live yesterday, looking directly into the camera. And it's something that President Trump doesn't always do. He usually is interacting with people, so he's looking to the sides, he's, you know, all that. But it's not every day that you see President Donald J. Trump look directly at the lens like that, and he did yesterday, and he delivered that message. So, and then today, what we're going to hear from, as he mentioned last night, will be the 8 a.m. press conference. So again, 15 minutes out from that. Those of you on the Central Time Zone, 6:45 in the morning, I won't even say what time it is out there on the West Coast and the Mountain Time at this point. But if you guys are waking up and watching, you're dedicated, loyal viewers, but you also, outside of that, are wanting to know what is going on, what is happening in our country. Maybe some of you on the West Coast and the Mountain Time Zone, you're watching this on replay, maybe even on the Central Time Zone. But I know a lot of you on the East Coast, you know, it's 7:46. It is a weekend, of course. It's even early for those of you that go to church or synagogue, that kind of stuff, all different kinds of services. So we'll see how everything goes, as we're seeing a live look now, a pan shot there of the reporters in the press briefing room of the Pentagon. So this is not at the White House, this is at the Pentagon. I've been in that press briefing room at the Pentagon as well when I was an intern at a different network years ago, 2004 to be exact, 2005 actually. So my point is, been in there before, back when Donald Rumsfeld was the defense secretary, when President Bush was the president of the United States. I've walked the E-ring of the Pentagon there, where on 9/11, a portion of that E-ring was hit by the planes there. And there are a number of quilts that are there that hang along the E-ring of memories of people and all of that. I remember that just like it was yesterday. And even more inside baseball, Brett Baer was the Pentagon correspondent at Fox at that time. So anyway, the point is, we're going to be here live with you, and we're going to have this entire speech. I believe it's going to be a speech at first. I really don't think that the Secretary of Defense is going to walk out there with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Caine, and then not have anything to say and just say, okay, what questions do you have? Of course, I believe they're going to come out. They're going to deliver the specifics. They may get right into military maybe strategy of what happened. They may say specifically what planes or what aircraft or what all those things that we can get confirmed. And that's what's really interesting about all of this. You know, yes, X is great. Yes, Truth Social is great. I love Truth Social more than I love X, but still, I mean, I'm biased toward it. Why? Because I feel like, you know, we have a leader of the free world and Devin Nunes who, you know, started this and have an opportunity to be within community of people on the right side of history. And yes, there are some people that are on the left side of history on Truth Social, but the point is, it's an open platform, but still a lot more friendly vibes, in my opinion. But anyway, so what we're going to see here is, back to my point, as I try and attempt the weave like President Trump does. On X and on Truth, a lot of people can say a lot of things. And when it comes to these type of things, especially high stakes when it comes to possible fringe of war or on the hinge of war, or even just strikes like this where we're involved, I'm not trying to get into speculation. I'm not trying to get into, I think this happened the other day. And if I ever do, I'll be honest with you. I'll say this is my opinion, or you'll know that I'm not like reporting, this is what I know. I will always work to confirm the facts with receipts. And so this is why it's great to hear from Pete Hegseth today, because he's going to confirm what information he'd like to share with us. And from there, the job of journalists are to question, you know, well, tell me really what, do you have the receipts on that? You know, the whole accountability thing as a reporter, as a journalist, you know, it's part of the job of the press to do that. And I think it's great. I also think it's great to be on the right side of history with the conservative media, because we're saying, hey, we love our freedom, we love our common sense here in this country, and we would love to see as many people be free around the world. That can go down a whole rabbit trail of, us trying to do regime changes and toppling regimes, and I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, that's just a genuine desire from myself, and I'm sure you. We want to be free here, and the people of China, I'm sure, want to be free, and Brazil want to be free, and on and on and on. So anyway, let's do this. Let's go to President Trump from less than 12 hours ago. Let's listen again to his speech. After the speech, we'll have just a few minutes left until it's time to hear from the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Here's President Trump from less than 12 hours ago.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before, and we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Caine, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Caine, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel. And God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The speech that's been seen by probably more than 1 billion people and counting. That speech lasting about 3.5 to 4 minutes yesterday, right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. A lot of people streaming in to watch it. We see there on the bottom right of your screen, that looks like there will be some infographics. You know, usually you call that for an online thing, an infographic, but there'll be an infographic poster of sorts put up there to describe maybe what happened over the past 12 hours. So that's what we're monitoring there on the bottom right of your screen. As we're getting ready, we are about 5 minutes out from this press conference. As you see, the reporters there ready to go, and we will take it live as soon as we see the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Before we go there live, obviously, if they were to come out early, then we would go there right now. But since they're not, let's go to this. President Trump on Truth Social last night saying, quote, "Any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. Thank you, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States." I'll read it one more time. "Any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. Thank you, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States." Let's look really quick before we go there to Washington, or to Virginia, actually, because it's at the Pentagon, this press briefing. Of course, you see them putting up that poster board there on the right, covered in black. Obviously, that will be removed, and we'll see exactly what that says there. And then we'll hear from both the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Again, I believe they'll come out. They'll talk about a few things first, and then they'll take questions from the press. I believe that because there's that many reporters in there, will they all get an opportunity? Probably not. I heard that there are about 60 reporters, or at least 60 seats there for reporters. That's the max, first come, first serve, I was seeing. So the point is about that. This press conference could literally go, as I was talking, here at the network with some people, and they were telling me it might be only 15 minutes long, and that may be true because the two military leaders might only take a couple questions, and then that's it. Or this may be a very long press conference if they take on a lot of questions. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And sometimes what happens is the questions, the reporters get in the same kind of vein, and they just have to start repeating themselves a lot, the two people at the front there. So usually they wrap it up at that point. So again, looking live there. I'm looking also live right now on X, and we're seeing from disclosed.tv that Britain has increased force protection measures to the highest level for its military assets in the Middle East. Obviously, the United States, our country, we have our men and women in the Middle East as well. There's a number of U.S. bases there. At this point, are there Navy vessels? Are there our ships? Are they still there? Various ships were there because of various radar and information we saw, including the fact that our Air Force was over there, but they're back home now. So we'll see what happens. We're going to get a lot more details from these two leaders, the top two people within the Pentagon, the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, specifically Chiefs of Staff. So that's the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, as you know, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Air Force General Dan Caine. The two will be at the podiums there, and we're going to be going there in just a couple minutes. On X, once again, Iran's foreign ministry, according to disclosed.tv, 2 hours ago, America and Israel crossed a red line. Well, here's the thing. We do know, and this is from fact-based reporting. This is not speculation. This is not opinion. The other day, all of us, or most of us that were watching, someone said on Iranian, either state media or somebody from Iran, that tonight is going to be a night that we'll remember for centuries. And that night came, that night went, and it was nothing to what that statement was. It was not an accurate statement. So do they talk a lot? We'll see what happens. We do know this, that we have the commander-in-chief that made this decision, and we know it happened, I believe, yesterday. Maybe he knew what he was going to do, but he really wanted to make sure. That's why he said, hey, let's do this within 2 weeks. I'll decide within 2 weeks. Well, it went from 2 weeks to 2 days because Carolyn Leavitt said at the press briefing that this is the statement from the president. Well, 48 hours later was yesterday, and we saw what happened. Now we're going to hear a lot more details. Hopefully we'll hear some more details. I believe we will. That's why there's this press conference coming up in just about a minute from now. As soon as we see the two military leaders, we'll go there to the Pentagon in Virginia, as it's a packed room there of reporters. And this is something, again, whether it's watching live or on replay or the sound bites that come out of this, will be yet another thing that we will be seeing and hearing on RSBN and all over the place all around the country. And in some cases, not some cases for this coverage, around the world. There will be a lot of people that'll be watching specifically the press briefing. And, you know, I really do believe that even our so-called enemies, and whether allies or enemies or foes or whoever, they watch, whether it's right side. I'm just spitting truth here. I mean, do they all watch Right Side Broadcasting Network? Probably not, but there's a lot of people that do. I mean, almost 1 million people just tuned in yesterday to just YouTube alone. We're pushing, I believe it's 400,000 on Rumble, and that number is climbing. But the point is, everyone's going to watch this press briefing however they watch it, and we're glad that you guys chose us to do this because, again, we're on the right side of history. We want the best for our country. We want the best for we the people. And we're glad that you guys chose us, and we continue. You know, this is not something that we just do where it's a big news story and then we go away. You know, when it's a slow Tuesday, but I don't think there's going to be a slow Tuesday even in the summertime now, especially after what just happened last night. We'll see, though. We'll see. We're still there for you. If it's President Trump at an event, I mean, we covered him at the Kennedy Center the other day going to see Les Mis with the First Lady. So we're here for the live coverage of what's going on in Washington, D.C., and indirectly now globally, as we've covered President Trump's trips all over the place, from Canada to the Netherlands coming up from June 24th to the 26th. So the question is, Carolyn Leavitt said 2 days ago that the trip to the NATO summit was still on for President Trump, June 24th to 26th. That's in 2 days. The president is actually supposed to leave, I believe, tomorrow, the 23rd, to head to the Netherlands. Will that trip still happen? That's a big question. Outside of what's going to happen now with this situation that, you know, after the U.S. struck Iran, you know, will Iran's proxies do anything? Or are they all crippled in the sense of with what Israel and our country just did? Who knows? All right, let's get ready to go to the Pentagon here as it's 8:02 a.m. Eastern Time. Have yet to see the two leaders yet, but I believe it's going to happen any minute from now. So, yeah, we're going to be here for all the coverage, and whether it's online, on Truth Social, on X, on Facebook, on our app, on our website, and live here on the channel, Right Side Broadcasting Network. So this is RSBN Live. It's 8:02 Sunday, June 22nd. Looking to see if there's any more reports coming from any of the... let's go to Washington, D.C.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning. Last night, on President Trump's orders, U.S. Central Command conducted a precision strike in the middle of the night against 3 nuclear facilities in Iran, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan, in order to destroy or severely degrade Iran's nuclear program. And as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs will demonstrate, it was an incredible and overwhelming success. The order we received from our commander-in-chief was focused, it was powerful, and it was clear. We devastated the Iranian nuclear program. But it's worth noting the operation did not target Iranian troops or the Iranian people. For the entirety of his time in office, President Trump has consistently stated for over 10 years that Iran must not get a nuclear weapon. Full stop. Thanks to President Trump's bold and visionary leadership and his commitment to peace through strength, Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. Many presidents have dreamed of delivering the final blow to Iran's nuclear program, and none could until President Trump. The operation President Trump planned was bold and it was brilliant, showing the world that American deterrence is back. When this president speaks, the world should listen. And the U.S. military, we can back it up. The most powerful military the world has ever known. No other country on planet Earth could have conducted the operation that the chairman is going to outline this morning. Not even close. Just like Soleimani found out in the first term, Iran found out when POTUS says 60 days that he seeks peace and negotiation, he means 60 days of peace and negotiation. Otherwise, that nuclear program, that nuclear capability will not exist. He meant it. This is not the previous administration. The President Trump said no nukes. He seeks peace, and Iran should take that path. He sent out a truth last night saying this: any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. Signed, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Iran would be smart to heed those words. He's said it before, and he means it. I want to give recognition to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Joint Staff, General Eric Kurilla at CENTCOM, who did a phenomenal job, he and his staff, all of CENTCOM. Policy across the board. This was a joint effort, and across the Pentagon effort. I want to recognize the pilots who flew those bombers, who flew those fighters, who flew those refuelers, warriors. I want to recognize the sailors on those destroyers, in those subs, on those carriers, warriors, all of them. I want to recognize our soldiers doing air defense, base defense, QRF, warriors, all of them. Every American involved in this operation performed flawlessly. And I want to give recognition to our allies in Israel as well. This is a plan that took months and weeks of positioning and preparation so that we could be ready when the President of the United States called. It took a great deal of precision. It involved misdirection and the highest of operational security. Our B-2s went in and out of downtown Tehran, of these nuclear sites, in and out and back without the world knowing at all. In that way, it was historic. A strike that included the longest B-2 Spirit bomber mission since 2001 and the first operational employment of the MOP, a massive ordnance penetrator. The mission demonstrated to the world the level of joint and allied integration that speak to the strength of our alliance and our joint forces. As President Trump has stated, the United States does not seek war, but let me be clear. We will act swiftly and decisively when our people, our partners, or our interests are threatened. Iran should listen to the President of the United States and know that he means it, every word. I want to give congratulations to our Commander-in-Chief. It was an honor to watch him lead last night and throughout, and to our great American warriors on this successful operation. God bless our troops. God bless America. And we give glory to God for his providence and continue to ask for his protection. I turn it over now to the chairman for specifics.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thanks for recognizing all of our folks out there doing our nation's work, and nice to see everybody on this early Sunday morning. Last night on the President's orders, U.S. Central Command, under the command of General Eric Kurilla, executed Operation Midnight Hammer, a deliberate and precise strike against 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. This was a complex and high-risk mission carried out with exceptional skill and discipline by our joint force. I want to thank every service member, planner, operator that made this mission possible. Their actions reflect the highest standards of the United States Armed Forces. This operation was designed to severely degrade Iran's nuclear weapons infrastructure. It was planned and executed across multiple domains and theaters with coordination that reflects our ability to project power globally with speed and precision at the time and place of our nation's choosing. This was a highly classified mission with very few people in Washington knowing the timing or nature of this plan. I'll refer you to the graphic on the side as I walk you through some of the operational details. At midnight Friday into Saturday morning, a large B-2 strike package comprised of bombers launched from the continental United States. As part of the plan to maintain tactical surprise, part of the package proceeded to the west and into the Pacific as a decoy, a deception effort known only to an extremely small number of planners and key leaders here in Washington and in Tampa. The main strike package, comprised of 7 B-2 Spirit bombers, each with 2 crew members, proceeded quietly to the east with minimal communications. Throughout the 18-hour flight into the target area, the aircraft completed multiple in-flight refuelings. Once over land, the B-2s linked up with escort and support aircraft in a complex, tightly timed maneuver requiring exact synchronization across multiple platforms in a narrow piece of airspace, all done with minimal communications. This type of integration is exactly what our joint force does better than anyone else in the world. At approximately 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time last night, and just prior to the strike package entering Iran, a U.S. submarine in the Central Command Area of Responsibility launched more than 24 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles against key surface infrastructure targets at Isfahan. As the Operation Midnight Hammer strike package entered Iranian airspace, the U.S. employed several deception tactics, including decoys, as the 4th and 5th generation aircraft pushed out in front of the strike package at high altitude and high speed, sweeping in front of the package for enemy fighters and surface-to-air missile threats. The strike package was supported by U.S. Strategic Command, U.S. Transportation Command, U.S. Cyber Command, U.S. Space Command, U.S. Space Force, and U.S. European Command. As the strike package approached Fordo and Natanz, the U.S. protection package employed high-speed suppression weapons to ensure safe passage of the strike package, with fighter assets employing preemptive suppressing fires against any potential Iranian surface-to-air threats. We are currently unaware of any shots fired at the U.S. strike package on the way in. At approximately 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:10 a.m. Iran time, the lead B-2 dropped 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapons on the first of several aim points at Fordo. As the president stated last night, the remaining bombers then hit their targets as well, with a total of 14 MOPs dropped against 2 nuclear target areas. All 3 Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, that's about 2:10 in the morning local time in Iran, with the Tomahawk missiles being the last to strike at Isfahan to ensure we retain the element of surprise throughout the operation. Following weapons release, the Midnight Hammer strike package exited Iranian airspace and the package began its return home. We are unaware of any shots fired at the package on the way out. Iran's fighters did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us. Throughout the mission, we retained the element of surprise. In total, U.S. forces employed approximately 75 precision-guided weapons during this operation. This included, as the president stated last night, 14 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, marking the first ever operational use of this weapon. I know that battle damage is of great interest. Final battle damage will take some time, but initial battle damage assessments indicate that all 3 sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction. More than 125 U.S. aircraft participated in this mission, including B-2 stealth bombers, multiple flights of fourth and fifth generation fighters, dozens and dozens of air refueling tankers, a guided missile submarine, and a full array of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft, as well as hundreds of maintenance and operational professionals. As the Secretary said, this was the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history and the second longest B-2 mission ever flown, exceeded only by those in the days following 9/11. Well prior to the strike, General Kurilla elevated force protection measures across the region, especially in Iraq, Syria, and the Gulf. Our forces remain on high alert and are fully postured to respond to any Iranian retaliation or proxy attacks, which would be an incredibly poor choice. We will defend ourselves. The safety of our service members and civilians remains our highest priority. This mission demonstrates the unmatched reach, coordination, and capability of the United States military. In just a matter of weeks, this went from strategic planning to global execution. This operation underscores the unmatched capabilities and global reach of the United States military. As the President clearly said last night, no other military in the world could have done this. I join the President and the Secretary in being incredibly proud of the air crews, naval forces, cyber operators, planners, and support teams, and commanders who made this mission possible. It is their skill, discipline, and teamwork that makes this operation possible. I am particularly proud of our discipline related to operational security, something that was of great concern to the President, the Secretary, General Kurilla, and me, and we will continue to focus on this. As we stand here this morning, many assets are still airborne, and we have hundreds deployed. I ask that we keep our warfighters on their way home and our deployed service member in our thoughts. Our joint force remains ready to defend the United States, our troops, and our interests in the region. Thank you very much.
We will take a few questions, Phil.
Me?
Yeah.
So, is regime change off the table, Mr. Secretary? And to the chairman, you said the battle damage assessment is still ongoing, but do you believe that some nuclear capability in Iran remains?
This mission was not and has not been about regime change. The President authorized a precision operation to neutralize the threats to our national interests posed by the Iranian nuclear program and the collective self-defense of our troops and our ally Israel.
Thanks for your question. I think BDA is still pending, and it would be way too early for me to comment on what may or may not still be there. But thanks for the question.
Green. No, behind you.
Excuse me, Mr. Secretary, can you tell me, was there a particular moment when the President decided to pull the trigger on this operation where he said, now, rather than being, something in the holster, now we're going to pull the trigger on it?
I would just say, having the opportunity to witness his leadership, he was fully committed to the peace process, wanted a negotiated outcome, gave Iran every single opportunity, and unfortunately was met by stonewalling, which is why he gave them plenty of time to continue to come to the table and give up enrichment, give up the nuclear program. But there was I won't say the particular moment, there was certainly a moment in time where he realized that it had to be a certain action taken in order to minimize the threat to us and our troops. Yeah.
General, you say that General Kurilla increased force protection in Iraq, Syria, and Gulf, in those areas. Were they given any advance warning the attacks were coming? And also, Mr. Secretary, when were congressional leaders notified? How long before the attacks took place?
Sir, to your first question, you know, the risk has clearly been rising over the last few weeks in the region. Based on that and not a particular awareness of this operation, we've made smart decisions to minimize the risk to U.S. forces in the region.
There were no advance warning?
No, sir.
And congressional?
They were notified after the planes were safely out. Well, we complied with the notification requirements of the War Powers
After
Act.
the attacks, they were notified?
They were immediately thereafter. Yes.
Thank you, Secretary. Two quick questions. Do you believe you completely destroyed Iranian nuclear program? And how about Iranian ballistic missiles? Your ally as Israel always saying that is biggest threat. And second question is very important. What will be your next step if Iran or militias under Iranian influence on the region attack U.S. interests or allies in the region?
And you can chime in on this too, Mr. Chairman. The battle damage assessment is ongoing, but our initial assessment, as the chairman said, is that all of our precision munitions struck where we wanted them to strike and had the desired effect. Which means especially in Fordo, which was the primary target here, we believe we achieved destruction of capabilities there. Ultimately, wherever it may be, whether it's in Iraq or Syria or bases in the Gulf, as the president said, it would be, as the chairman said, it would be a very bad idea for Iran or its proxies to attempt to attack American forces. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Regarding retaliations, Iran and North Korea are cooperating on nuclear and missile development. Do you think there is a possibility that Iran, North Korea, and the other forces, such as China, will join forces to retaliate against the United States?
Well, unfortunately, because of the policies under the previous administration, we drove those countries together. And ultimately, that creates a challenging environment. For this particular operation, the focus is on Iran and Iranian nuclear capabilities. That's our focus here, is to not just say that they can't have, but President Trump has said from over 20 years, frankly, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And ultimately, he decided this is the moment, given their stonewalling, when direct military action had to be taken to prevent that from happening. Yes.
Thank you very much. General Caine, I understand OPSEC, I respect OPSEC. Can you say at all what security procedures are being taken to protect U.S. troops in Iraq and elsewhere in the Middle East? And Secretary Hegseth, as a global war on terrorism veteran, what do you say to veterans who may be concerned the U.S. is getting into another open-ended war in the Middle East over weapons of mass destruction?
Thanks, sir, for the question. I won't comment on what force protection measures are being taken in the region. What I will say is we're being proactive and not reactive, and being very thoughtful about ensuring that we do all that we can to protect our forces out there.
And I would just say, as the president has directed and made clear, this is most certainly not open-ended. It doesn't mean it limits our ability to respond. We will respond if necessary. The most powerful military in the world is postured and prepared to defend our people. But what the president gave us, as I said, was a focused, powerful, and clear mission on the destruction of Iranian nuclear capabilities. Those were the targets. That's what was struck. That's what was overwhelming. That's what was overwhelming. That's what the Iranian regime needs to understand, as the president put out last night. He wants peace. There needs to be a negotiated settlement here. We ultimately demonstrated that Iran cannot have a nuclear capability. That is a very clear mission set on this operation. Yes, hold on. Yes, right there.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Question for the Secretary and the Chairman. How was this strike coordinated with the Israelis on a strategic level, militarily, and on a tactical level? Was there any direct Israeli military participation in this operation?
Well, I would say certainly Israel had an incredible military success, especially at the beginning and ongoing, in degrading Iranian capabilities degrading Iranian launchers, MRBMs. It's been incredible to watch what our ally Israel has been able to do. And there certainly have been conversations. I mean, General Kurilla at CENTCOM has worked closely in the defense of Israel for many years. And part of this operation was the defense of Israel and the ongoing defense of Israel. But as it pertains to this strike, this was U.S. operated and U.S. led.
We took advantage of some of the preparatory work that's been done over the past week and a half in terms of axis of approach. I won't get into the particulars, but as the Secretary said, it was a U.S. strike. We made sure we were not in the same piece of airspace and sky. Aside from that, that was the extent of it.
We'll take a couple more. Yeah, right there.
Question to the Secretary first. Are you concerned whatsoever now about the reaction from U.S. allies given the strike, particularly those in the Gulf? And to the Chairman, if I may, I understand you don't want to speak to specific assets and force protection measures, but do you anticipate at least having to bring in any further assets from other theaters to aid in force protection over the coming days?
We certainly understand the challenges of allies in the region, and we have been respectful and in working in collaboration with them as it pertains to basing and sensitivities there. Ultimately, they've got a lot of assets and people in those locations also where American troops are co-located. So that's a consideration of ours. We've been in close consultation with them, and we appreciate the support that we have got.
Thanks for the question on sort of the global picture. And as you know, that's one of my jobs, is to look globally at the entire range of challenges. We are always carefully considering our force posture around the world and then offering options to the Secretary and to the President. I won't comment on any future things, but the American people should know that we carefully consider those moves around the world and try to modulate as needed our force structure in the region.
Absolutely. Yeah, right here.
Thank you. What communications are being sent to the Iranians right now, and is there any possibility of diplomacy now or in the coming days?
I can only confirm that there are both public and private messages being directly delivered to the Iranians in multiple channels, giving them every opportunity to come to the table. They understand precisely what the American position is, precisely what steps they can take to allow for peace, and we hope they do so. Yes.
The president may not want an open-ended conflict. The Iranians may disagree. Are you prepared for a protracted war?
Well, anything can happen in conflict. We acknowledge that. But the scope of this was intentionally limited. That's the message that we're sending. With the capabilities of the American military nearly unlimited. So Iran, in that sense, has a choice. But we've made it very clear to them, this is nuclear sites, this is nuclear capabilities, this is the line that the president set, and we set that back. Now is the time to come forward for peace. But I think one of the takeaways from this as well is the unprecedented level of ongoing cooperation. I can't speak highly enough of the chairman and his staff and General Kurilla in CENTCOM, what they've done to look around the corner, to pre-position, to understand how an operation like this comes together. The scope and scale of what occurred last night would take the breath away of almost any American if you had an opportunity to watch it in real time. And I think Tehran is certainly calculating the reality that planes flew from the middle of America in Missouri overnight, completely undetected over 3 of their most highly sensitive sites, and we were able to destroy nuclear capabilities. And our boys in those bombers are on their way home right now. We believe that'll have a clear psychological impact on how they view the future, and we certainly hope they take the path of negotiated peace. But I could not be more proud of how this building operated, of the precision, the sensitivity, and the professionalism of the troops involved in this effort. I will take one more. We'll take one more question. Yes, right there.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Concerning the justification for these strikes, in March, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released their threat assessment, concluding, quote, Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Caine has not authorized the nuclear programs he suspended in 2003, unquote. So what new intelligence does the U.S. have since then that the Iranians have changed their position on nuclear weapons And does this new intelligence come from U.S. sources and methods, or are we getting this information from other countries?
Well, I would just simply say that the president's made it very clear. He's looked at all of this, all of the intelligence, all of the information, and come to the conclusion that the Iranian nuclear program is a threat, and was willing to take this precision operation to neutralize that threat in order to advance American national interests, reduce the Iranian nuclear program, and obviously collective self-defense of ourselves and our allies. So he looked at all of it, understood the nature of the threat, and took bold action I think the American people would expect in a commander-in-chief. That's all we've got. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do you have any of the WC-135s up to check the radioactive material in the atmosphere?
About 27 minutes, of course, opening statement there by the Secretary of Defense referring to President Trump saying, quote, he seeks peace and Iran should take that path. Of course, a lot of information there shared about the specifics about the operation and all of the different military aircraft and assets that were used in this strike that happened between 6:40 p.m. yesterday and 7:05. It was at 7:50 p.m. when President Trump posted on Truth Social that the attack was successful. And of course, we were live here last night for that entire speech at the White House as we continue to monitor developments. Obviously, this is not the end of everything in the sense of, okay, that might be the end of it, but there are a lot of words being spoken right now on various fronts. So we'll monitor any developments as we get it. Let's get into a couple sponsors, and then we may be able to play a soundbite from Pete Hegseth in just a second. This is all brought to you by allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. So if you're looking to save 20% on essential medications, you're talking hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, NAD+, methylene blue, you can do that with allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. This RSBN 20 gets you 20% off to the end of the month. Great company there. When other doctors and some pharmacists say, well, you're not going to be able to get ivermectin, you can go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. They have doctors who say you can and pharmacists who say you can. So a great company there. Also, this brought to you by Colonial Metals Group. freegoldguide.com/RSBN is the website. You get a free info kit in the mail all about gold and silver. Of course, you see at the bottom of your screen. Protect your IRA, your 401k with gold, all 100% tax-free. Colonial Metals Group. You get that QR code there as well, as it's the bottom of the hour, 8:32, Sunday, June 22nd. Thanks again for streaming in live. We may have a soundbite to play for you here in just a second, but in the meantime, what you can do is, of course, we can replay. Of course, you can scrub back and check out the entire press conference. I know a lot of people tuned in or streamed in live, and thank you for doing so, just like you did last night throughout our various social platforms, including Rumble. But this is something that later today and tomorrow, I'm sure a lot of people will be watching because it's very early, of course, still on the West Coast and in the Mountain Time Zone. But let's go to Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, for a soundbite from just moments ago.
Thanks to President Trump's bold and visionary leadership and his commitment to peace through strength, Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. Many presidents have dreamed of delivering the final blow to Iran's nuclear program, and none could until President Trump. The operation President Trump planned was bold and it was brilliant, showing the world that American deterrence is back. When this president speaks, the world should listen. And the U.S. military, we can back it up. The most powerful military the world has ever known. No other country on planet Earth could have conducted the operation that the chairman is going to outline this morning. Not even close.
So, of course, that delivery of that message from the Secretary of State just moments ago. Of course, if you missed any of today's press conference, of course, you can rewatch it. Also, last night, if you'd like to watch our coverage and hear from President Trump live, as we took it live here at 10 p.m. last night in front of the country, in front of the world. Quite interesting and quite fascinating to see that this is the time that we live in right now, and we're monitoring it with you right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. The operation that Pete Hegseth was referring to, Operation Midnight Hammer, that's what this whole thing was called, this 3 strikes in Iran. Also, speaking of what Mr. Hegseth was just saying, the Secretary of Defense, President Trump, of course, said this on Truth Social, as the Secretary of Defense also referred to any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight, referring to yesterday, of course. President Trump wrapping up that Truth Social post, his last Truth Social post since his most recent Truth Social post, other than posting his message to the country yesterday, ending that Truth Social post by saying Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. So this is just getting started in the sense of watching what happens. If anything happens, we're here for it. Even if nothing happens, there's a lot of coverage still to be done. Of course, as you can count on us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. For all of us at RSBN, thank you so much for streaming in. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.